Hello everyone. Today I will be going over my 6 years of Latin here at Boston Latin School. Starting in 6th year, I had Mr. Brownell as my Latin teacher. Mr. Brownell is a very fun and engaging teacher. He not only taught us the basics of Latin, but also made Latin accessible and enjoyable. In fact, my love of Latin was fostered under his tutelage. He often challenged us to do better by putting us into table groups where we would race against the other groups to see who could decline a noun the fastest. Another memorable part of 6th year Latin was the collection of Latin books Mr. Brownell kept in the back of the class. I remembered staying after school one day to translate a Latin version of The Cat in the Hat. These picture books made Latin more accessible and in a way modernized the language so we could better relate to it. In fact, a set of beautifully made PowerPoints Mr. Brownell often used is based on one of these picture books. The comical images helped us remember different grammatical structures and further enhanced our studies. One of my favorite projects 6th year was making our own scutum, a shield used in the Roman army. Some people even made it out of real wood and metal. When everyone turned theirs in, we went outside and marched with our scutums, as if we were part of an army. Overall, Latin was one of my favorite classes in 6th year because of all the fun educational activities that we did in class. In 8th grade, I had Mr. Bartoloma, another awesome teacher. In this Latin class, we began translating myths about Hercules. These myths were fun because it was the first time that we, as students, translated a longer piece of work. Along with translations, we also learned many more verb forms and case uses, expanding the range of ideas that we could express in Latin. This was also the year where our vocabulary was large enough that we noticed the striking overlap between English and Latin. One project that highlighted this fact was the Latin Derivatives Project. For this project, we found a bunch of English derivatives for one word. Then we illustrated each of them and put the illustrations together as a collage. Though I myself am not very talented at art, I love discovering what my fellow classmates are capable of. Some people made coat hanger mobiles with their illustrations. Others made scrolls using homemade parchment paper. All in all, 8th grade Latin was an awesome year, since we began learning more advanced topics in Latin, preparing us for the texts we'd translate in high school. In 9th grade, Mr. Chivero was my Latin teacher. As a freshman, we began translating works by Julius Caesar, specifically his De Bello Gallico, on the Gallic War. This text was particularly interesting since it was the first time we translated a historical document originally written in Latin. Reading Caesar's accounts of the war also gave us insights into the Roman world. We learned more about the Roman army and each type of soldier, we read Caesar's analysis on the Gallic people north of Rome, and we observed Caesar's military tactics used to turn the tide of battle. In fact, I made a diorama of one of the battles by a river, showing how he trapped the enemy using the terrain. We also learned more about Roman history and myth. One project regarding this subject involved me making a drawing of Tarquinius Superbus buying the 3 Sibylline books. This year was one of the most challenging, since the Latin texts were an aggregate of all the grammar we had learned up to this point. In 10th grade, I took Latin prose with Miss Nabefeld. Latin prose is one of the most challenging, yet also one of the most rewarding Latin courses that I have taken. In fact, one of my favorite texts is the Catilinarian by the renowned orator Cicero. Cicero's writing, though difficult to translate at times, is full of witty rhetoric with which he lampoons Catiline. This piece captures the passion with which Cicero gives his speeches and makes it a very entertaining translation. After that, we translated sections from Ovid's Metamorphoses. I loved translating the Metamorphoses since they were all mythological stories like the story of Apollo and Daphne. Also, if you like art, then you'll love many of the projects. Each year, Miss Nabefeld does different projects, such as illustrating the shield of Aeneas to modeling battlefields. In fact, this year someone used Lego robots to model an interactive naval battle. Another unique aspect of Latin prose is the English to Latin translation assignments. In my 6 years of Latin, this is the only time where I've had the opportunity to translate English to Latin and even write an essay wholly in Latin to analyze a work of my choice. This is the ultimate test of your understanding of Latin grammar, as you're forced to view English through a Latin lens. All in all, I loved taking Latin prose, and I would definitely recommend this class to anyone who shares a love of the classics. AP Latin in 11th grade with Miss Ledin was also fantastic. Currently, the AP curriculum focuses on Caesar's De Bello Gallico and Virgil's Aeneid, both of which were amazing reads. Starting with the De Bello Gallico, Miss Ledang eases students into the fast-paced reading. One aspect of the class that helps students achieve this faster level of translation is the use of a Google document where the Latin and the class translation are placed side by side. This helps students not only understand how the Latin and English relate to each other, but also study for tests, including the AP exam itself. Another awesome part of the Google Doc is the comment feature. Students in class use Chromebooks to follow along with the translation and add informative comments providing historical/mythological background, interesting uses of rhetorical devices, or even notes to help you translate. Truly, the class feels like one cooperative learning environment, encouraging everyone to participate and push each other to improve our ability in understanding Latin. One fun project at the beginning of the year is the Rhetorical Devices project, wherein students illustrate all the common rhetorical devices. Going into AP Latin, I didn't know any of these rhetorical devices, but this project prepared me so well that I rarely had to look up any devices afterwards. Also, since this project was an individual project spanning a duration of a few weeks, students could find their own creative voice and make different themed projects that were really fun to look through. Translating the Aeneid is also very interesting. Over the summer, you actually read both texts in English first, so you already have an idea of the plot. Reading these texts in their native language, however, enhances the experience by understanding the nuances in diction and rhetorical devices. I believe that AP Latin is a great course that anyone who enjoyed Latin prose or Latin 4 should definitely take. Finally, in senior year, I am currently taking Latin 5 poetry with Miss Housey. Miss Housey is a great teacher who exudes passion in every class. Translating works of Catullus and Ovid, you can tell that she truly loves both of these poets. In this class, you'll translate poems largely focused on the topic of passionate love mixed with bitter hatred. These exciting poems will make you empathize with their failed love and laugh with their double entendres. Having proved your ability to translate Latin already, Latin 5 focuses much more on analyzing the diction and rhetorical devices used to convey specific themes and tones through writing. In no other Latin class will you have the chance to take the time to appreciate these subtle nuances. As a whole, this class was a great end to my 6 years of Latin, bringing closure not only to my high school Latin studies, but also to my 6 years at Boston Latin School. Thank you for watching my video reflecting on my 6 years studying Latin at Boston Latin School. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time studying this wonderful language.